I have on the show co-founder of Ben and Jerry's, my big homie, Ben Cohen. Ben, how are you, man?
Yo, Mr. Rashad, what a pleasure. How you doing?
It's awesome, man. I'm doing quite well, brother. I told you, man, the reason why I'm not thin and fit right now is because of you, brother. Is all your fault.
You look pretty fit to me. We like a hefty kind of guy.
There you go. There you go. Well, everyone knows you obviously from the iconic brand of Ben and Jerry's. But let's talk about the campaign that you are a part of. You're the co-chair of the campaign to end qualified immunity. We've talked about qualified immunity on this program extensively. I talk about it on my radio show. I've been an advocate to get rid of it. Very proud of some of the jurisdictions that have taken this up, especially places like New York. And to give some context, qualified immunity really is rooted in racism. It was a way for white police officers who decided to commit acts of violence and constitutional intrusions on black people to have a personal protection. And these southern states especially started passing these immunity laws that disconnected police officers or government workers from actual liability. And it's a ridiculous rule. It needs to stop. But Ben, tell us why this is such an important fight for you.
You know, as you might have noticed, I'm a white guy. You know, people say this is a black problem, but I don't see it as a black problem. I see it as a white problem. You know, in our society, whites are the majority, whites are the ones who have the power. And the people that we are arming and hiring to protect and serve are killing unarmed black people, and we're letting them get away with it. I mean, first it's outrageous that they do it, and then they don't end up getting charged. And if they do end up getting charged, like 2 years later, you hear that, well, they got off with a slap on the wrist. But, you know, so I feel like we white people need to take responsibility for the police that we are hiring to protect and serve when they go off the rails.
You make a remarkable point, Ben. Something I've said in my commentary before is that it's interesting when a white officer commits an act of violence against the black community. The black community, we will typically hold some type of press conference, maybe a vigil, we will do a rally, and all of those things are great. But I'm calling for white people, for woke or halfway woke white people to call out other white people that do this insanity. And you're one of those woke white people, and you are saying that it's time for white folks to call out white folks. Am I hearing that halfway right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, one of the beautiful things to see when I was at the protest in DC after George Floyd got murdered was that there were so many white people there.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful that we were being led by black people. But now, right now, this bill to end qualified immunity is in the Senate. It is currently being negotiated. And right now is when the Senate needs to hear your voice. Now is when your voice counts. Call your senator, tell them you want them to overturn qualified immunity. It's pretty easy to do.
You know what's interesting about qualified immunity? When you do a national poll and you break down the elements of what it does, most Americans are for ending qualified immunity. Also in places like Georgia, which has been considered a Republican state for a very long time, they put qualified immunity on the ballot. And guess what citizens did in a bipartisan way? They said, okay, we need to weaken qualified immunity. So now in Georgia, the judge has the ability to set aside qualified immunity case by case. That was a way to weaken qualified immunity in Georgia. They put it on the ballot. People throughout the whole state voted, and Republicans, Democrats, Independents, etc., said, you know what, qualified immunity is a bad idea. Why do you think there's such a pushback from especially those on the right to get rid of something that just seems so ridiculous in the first place? Every profession every profession has a liability standard. Doctors, psychiatrists, school teachers, everybody. Why should cops not?
I'm with you. It just doesn't make any sense. It defies logic. And the interesting thing about the national campaign to end qualified immunity is that there are 16 organizations that are members of the coalition, including Americans for Prosperity, including the Cato Institute and the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and the ACLU. So it's people from all sides of the political ideological spectrum that understand that qualified immunity is just unjust and absurd. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Let me ask you this, man, because you're a rarity and you should be the norm. You are utilizing your platform, your privilege, your opportunity to move the conversation, to do so for social justice. Why is it that we don't see more business leaders utilizing their amazing platform the way you are?
It seems like the current way of the culture in the United States is that people are only concerned about themselves. I think that, I was amazed when I was at the Occupy Wall Street in New York City, and Jerry and I were there scooping ice cream for the occupiers. And some guy comes up to me and says, what are you doing here? How come you're here? You're part of the 1%. What does it help you to have fairness in our society in terms of income and ending economic disparity? And I told him, it's not about me, it's about justice, it's about fairness, it's about equality. I guess I was a gullible little kid when I went to public school, but they told me that's what the country was about: fairness, equality, and justice. And I loved it. I ate it right up, and I still want our country to be about that. And it's a democracy. If I want it to be about that, I got to work to make it happen.
Very well said. Man, I'm flat out of time. Ben, it has been a pleasure. Let me remind everyone, get behind this to end qualified immunity bill. Pressure your US Senator, or make sure you get involved in replacing them if they do not serve your agenda.
I gotta say, you gotta check out the podcast Unaccountable. It's with me, Aloe Black. Unaccountable, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm under orders from my higher ups to tell you that.
Awesome, beautiful, man. We will check out Unaccountable, and is everywhere podcasts can be found.
Everywhere podcasts are available. Unaccountable.
Right. Good stuff, man. Unaccountable. Thank you so much, man. We appreciate you, Ben.
Thanks a lot, Rashad.